Yo, the enemy's public, I gotta keep my eyes open. Pay attention, stop walking around like you blindfolded. This not the World Cup, but Nasir be kicking knowledge. This the type of information you can never learn in college. It's time to fight back, it's no more trying to play it cool. We got interviews, podcasts, and got the latest news. So sit back and relax, we about to get it started. Earth is the canvas, and guess who's the con artist? They brainwashing us, the system corrupted. You are now rocking with the enemy's public. You are now rocking with the enemy's public. I said you are now rocking with the enemy's public. Hey.
A once goal-driven, ambitious Sapphire turns to the street life after the sudden death of her big brother Dre. Dre's best friend Devontae tries to honor his homeboy's last request of looking out for his baby sister. A rebellious Sapphire makes it very difficult for Devontae to carry out his promise. Author Angela King James presents Fire. Get it on Amazon, on paperback, or Kindle.
The once goal-driven, ambitious Sapphire turns to the street life after the sudden death of her big brother Dre. Dre's best friend Devontae tries to honor his homeboy's last request of looking out for his baby sister. A rebellious Sapphire makes it very difficult for Devontae to carry out his promise.
Peace. This is the enemy's public. I am Bro.Nasir. Peace to my brother. Respect to my brother, Keith West. Thanks for coming up, my good brother, and joining your brother this evening. We're going to go over Corrupt to the Core, Part 9. We're going to deal with police, city officials, city government, the federal government. We're going to deal with some corruption. We know that there's corruption in all facets of government, local, federal, and state. And we're going to expose some of these corrupt individuals. Yet before I get started, I'm going to play a few music selections, some community music, starting with my brother Dangerous Music, featuring Talk Your Talk Media, my brother Greedy Vegan.
I'm real shit, man. I keep telling you niggas, man, stop playing with me, man. Y'all niggas be taking, y'all take motherfuckers humbleness for a weakness. Niggas a nigga and shit, you know what I'm saying? Be on some chill shit. That's an opportunity for you to just walk all over a motherfucker, say what you want. Like, here's the issue. Niggas is nosy like fuck. You feel me? Niggas love to stick their noses in some shit like that. Niggas love.
Peace to my brother Warfare K. Salute. General to general.
I've been seeing shit through night vision. That mean I see you eyes closed. I told you I would get you. Now it's time. Die slow. Dangerous, the spirit of rap. I'm in the flesh. Talent is a body of work that I possess. You fucking with the wrong gun. Bet I let it speak to them up close and personal. Underneath a nigga chin, that's how you make a brainstorm. Any bad thoughts you was having, I just put it in the air to get rained on. Niggas always doing a lot until they dead ones. Bodies get viewed in the box over these breadcrumbs. Similar to Broadway stages, shit get clapped up. They become vacational disclose. Niggas get packed up. I could tell you building on lies. What the fuck for? A lion that talk to the sky. This shit up, bro. You can't get a slice of the pie. Bitch, this ain't a pizza. Tell me what it's like when you die. See you when I see you.
Old school shit, man. Like real talk, man. I'm an 80s baby and shit, man. I still do all the old school principles and shit, you know what I'm saying? Like real talk. But on some real shit though, man, let me get right to it though. Like real talk.
On this internet, niggas who talk, they be straight soft. Catch one of them niggas slipping and blow they face off. Real shit, do it myself. I never make calls. Bullshit, fire my gun till it been laid off. Imagine what it do to your dreads, my nigga. Trust me. One shot, fuck up your locks like Puffy. Point blank, all you saw, how niggas moved in. Got your shit all on the walls like school gyms. Should it be a movie when I step on the set? My chain glow, got me looking like a special effect. It hang low, when it shine, it be dripping respect. It gave hope to all them niggas that was wishing me death. You in a veggie state, coma, they ain't giving you hope. Cause your body's still alive, but it's missing your soul. This shit the Matrix, and no, it ain't no script for your role. Cause you ain't never pay attention to the glitch in the road.
Right now, you try to play with me, Slim. You play with his name. Like you try to put a fucking, facade out there just like I'm some type of bony motherfucker. I'm some type of raw nigga or some shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm one of them snake ass niggas or something like that too. I've been one of the most transparent niggas on YouTube, shit. Like real shit. I ain't never had a problem with coming on this motherfucker being my motherfucking self.
Respect to Black Panther Jackie Brown. Thank you for coming through. I appreciate it.
On the internet, shit. Paint a picture that I'm a fraud-ass nigga and shit. Like, I'm some type of motherfucking sneaky-ass nigga. Nah, I'm very transparent.
Chris Cyphers. The chill. Let's go. Smokers Lounge.
You ain't getting money, what you call it? Bank got a flow, no rap, no faucet. Mama told me always get my fruit from the market. Empire mind state, roots from the garden. Motherfucker, why lie to a lame? No, the presence of a king make a nigga think raincoats. Still make a hater do his thing though. Still make a hater do his thing, yo. Yo, I'm back on that reload. Full clip, send me auto when they heat blow. D-rolls got your D-code. For that mellow, I say hello, then Porzingis from the free throw. Sour face, lay off the lemonade. I'm still on my Jay-Z renegade. Pick a day, outbox niggas, come get a clip of fade. Win bets off myself, then fill it in the plate. That outfit make the chick converse. And I had one on my hip, but you skipped that first. Yo, I like them slip, then she fit that skirt. We had a third, come and learn, now ditch that skirt. You so colossal. Every time I get it, Dutching like these Instagrams, they follow. Y'all looking at today, well, my vision see tomorrow. I get mines, no borrow. You ain't getting money, what you call it? Bank got a flow, no rap, no faucet. Mama told me always get my fruit from the market. Empire mind state, roots from the garden. Motherfucker, why lie to a lame? No, the presence of a king make the nigga think raincoats. Still make a hater do his thing though. Still make a hater do his thing, yo. War dog on the instrumental, y'all. Do better music, always shine or the mob. Think about a Cuban, that's the bulls of the park. So I can make sure you niggas see me from afar. And I can shine without jewels like a god. They see the aura, chill as the corner. I'm honest, there's a difference in your real, cause you're sorta. This was reality, TV, your portion. Read the lines, nigga, we peep the skies. Can't let you roll the crew, my peeps are eyes. Good vibes, regular dude, these equal eyes. Unless you talk down and avoid the eagle eye. Awful, fix your face when I'm walking through. Stun on you lanes, that's what a boss do. Stop making assumptions, own view. One, yeah, I got my own business, so I stay in mines. People out there worried about negativity. Your focus needs some readjustment. Get money. One, you ain't getting money, what you call it? Ain't got a flow, no rap, no faucet. Mama told me always get my fruit from the market. Empire mind state, roots from the garden. Motherfucker, why lie to a lame? No, the presence of a king make a nigga think raincoats. Still make a hater do his thing though. Still make a hater do his thing, yo.
Peace. This is the enemy's public. I am Bro.Nasir. Family, the enemy is public. All those who are out here masquerading as public servants, they are the enemy. They can care less about any of us. They can care less about serving the public. They want to be seen as heroes. They want to be seen as somebody noble, but they are our enemy. Blatant, overtly, they are our enemies. Now, when you see a police officer, you shouldn't cringe. We cringe because of their history, not because we have something nefarious on our mind that we're about to do or have done. It's that we know that they don't mean us no good, and they seek to victimize people and get them in this wicked ass system. We're going to go over not just the police. You have city council members, you have presidents, city government, federal government, who is just corrupt to the core. They cannot be trusted. And this society, they want us to believe that there's people that our tax dollars go to for their livelihood, that they mean us any good. It's too many examples of wicked, corrupt ass people. I'm not even just talking about the Caucasian cops. You can't trust any of them. Even if it's your family member, you can't trust them. Because once they get into that blue line, people who they work with become their family. They don't even see you as their family no more. They think that they have risen above the condition of their people, and they get drunk with that perceived power that somebody said that they have. They want compliance, they want obedience, and the wicked is who they are. And to reading from the book of Brown, can the devil be saved? The answer is emphatically no. Can the devil be reformed? The answer is emphatically no. The devil is who he and she is. The enemy is public. Now I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to go over some examples of this wicked devil. Before I do, I want people to understand what a cracker is. A cracker is not a cracker because they are a mere white person. That don't make a white person a cracker. A cracker is a white person, not even necessarily a white person. Anybody who think that they can use the system, manipulate the system, and weaponize the system against somebody. Like the Amy Cooper female in Central Park a few years ago who called the cops on the brother with her same last name. It's ironic, their last names were the same, and she was choking the hell out of her dog. And because he asked her to follow the rules of the park, she said she's going to call the police and tell the police that he, threatened her life. And then she even turned on the waterworks. Went that deep with it, turned on the waterworks, started crying, behaving frantic so the police can hurry there. If that brother didn't record all that, they probably would have beat his ass. That's the bad part about it. That's the bad part about it. But that's what a cracker is. Even some of us do it to each other. We will weaponize the authorities against each other. Most case scenario is them. It's cracking the whip. Today's cracking the whip is pulling out that telephone and weaponizing the police. Anything that you weaponize that's supposed to be, for most case scenario, emergency, and you weaponize that because somebody may have rubbed you wrong, you don't like the person, or the person may have got too big for their britches in your eyesight, and then you call the police on them. A lot of us think cracker means somebody that's white. Cracker is anybody who use something as a whip. Today's whip is the cell phone and weaponizing the police in all actuality. That's today's whip. Weaponizing the so-called authorities. Now we're going to go to officers get busted in a narcotics operation. For somebody who call themselves law enforcement, so-called law enforcement break the law more than anybody. But they walk around chest out.
We begin tonight with your 17 Crime Watch. An Arvin police sergeant is under arrest and a Bakersfield police officer out of a job after a drug task force raided the Bakersfield home they share.
Peace to my brother, Bronze Flat Power Guy, and my brother, King Genocide. Salute to both of you brothers.
The task force was investigating a suspected Mexican drug dealer. 17's Rob Hagan has the story.
Two local officers sworn to protect and serve are facing drug charges in the wake of a narcotics investigation conducted by the Kern County Sheriff's Office and a multi-agency county drug trafficking task force. According to the Sheriff's Office, authorities executed search warrants at 3 homes associated with 47-year-old Francisco Beltran of Durango, Mexico. Authorities say Beltran had law enforcement equipment and a gun reported stolen to the BPD. Beltran was arrested, but it didn't stop there. Another search warrant led deputies to the Bakersfield home of 36-year-old Sergeant Delia Serrano Reyes with the Arvin Police Department and her roommate, 26-year-old D'Angelo Sanchez with the BPD. Authorities say Reyes, who was off duty, was Beltran's criminal associate. Reyes was allegedly found in possession of a controlled substance and determined to be under the influence of a controlled substance while in possession of several firearms. Chief Gazelpour says the arrest of Reyes is a gut punch to the Arvin PD. Gazelpour released a statement saying, quote, "In light of Sergeant Reyes' off-duty arrest, we urge the public not to rush to judgment. This isolated incident does not define the hard work and integrity of our police department." Gazelpour says Reyes bonded out Thursday.
Why wouldn't we rush to judgment when this happens so often? Why wouldn't we rush to judgment? This is what these people do. This is what they do. So we should rush to judgment. We should judge them right when they see them for what they are and who they are.
Thursday morning, the bond was set at $32,000. Gazelport says Reyes has served in law enforcement for 6 years. He says Reyes came to the Arvin PD from the McFarland Police Department. She was just promoted to sergeant 5 months ago. Reyes is due back in court next week. Authorities say they also found evidence of steroid possession by off-duty BPD officer D'Angelo Sanchez. Sanchez was not at the house during the operation. He was not arrested, but a department spokesman said he resigned from the police department after the drug raid. Charges will be submitted to the Kern County District Attorney's Office for further review. Rob Higgins, 17 News.
Yeah, we're going to go over quite a few of these. We're going to go over the history of the Black Panther and dealing with the police.
One of the most well-known civil rights organizations of the late 1960s was the Black Panther Party. Who started the Black Panther Party? What did the group advocate? In many northern and western cities in the United States, African Americans were living in urban ghettos with high unemployment rates and substandard housing. Many also believed that they were treated unfairly and in some cases even brutalized by police forces which did not represent them. For example, Oakland, California had 661 police officers, yet only 16 of those were African American. Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale had been involved in many different civil rights organizations in their young lives, including those who promoted the Black Power ideology. However, they were frustrated with the failure of these organizations to combat police brutality and other injustices they saw in their communities. In October of 1966, the two men formed the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense, later simply known as the Black Panther Party. They organized armed patrols that would follow police officers, monitoring them for incidents of abuse. If the police attempted to confront them, Black Panther members would recite the state and federal laws which permitted them to carry their loaded weapons. The Black Panther Party first gained national attention after an incident in 1967. The group carried loaded firearms into the California State Assembly in protest of a piece of legislation which would make carrying loaded firearms illegal. 6 of the members were arrested for this incident.
You see how they move the goalposts when someone are able to flex muscle just like them. See, that's how a wicked beast behaves. When you're able to flex muscle, when they're not able to bully you, because if they pull out a gun, you pull out a gun, where they go to the legislator and they change the law. When the Panther Party walked up into the Capitol building in California, that's what changed the law. You know, they didn't want us to carry guns anymore.
In May of 1967, the Black Panther Party issued a list of 10 points which stated their beliefs and values. This list included things such as full employment, decent housing, and an end to police brutality. They also sought education for African Americans and justice.
See, police brutality, they're not going to stop doing what they do. If you want somebody to stop doing something to you, you have to stop them from doing it to you. Asking them is not going to work because none of them are benevolent, and there's no benevolent person that you can go to that's going to stop them from abusing us. There's no judge, there's no chief, there's no captain. Nobody in their rank and file is going to be benevolent enough to stand up and say, look, we have to stop abusing those people. We have to stop. people from abusing us.
Justice within the court system.
Salute to my
The group's
brother,
ideals resonated within the Black
the
community,
Smokers Lounge.
and their numbers expanded rapidly. By 1968, the Black Panther Party had a presence in more than 20 major American cities, including New York City, Chicago, Boston, Dallas, Los Angeles, and Washington, D.C. Some estimates claim that their membership numbers were as high as 10,000 at its peak in 1969.
So, with 10,000 people, we know that was frightening to them. And that right there, it's not necessarily one person. See, people get it misconstrued when they say that when J. Edgar Hoover wanted to prevent the rise of a Black Messiah. That Messiah is not necessarily one person. That Messiah can be an organization that can save our people.
The party also boasted an influential newspaper, which was read by more than 250,000 people. Its editor was Eldridge Cleaver, and he became a persuasive voice within the Black Power movement. Cleaver would eventually become the third most prominent member of the Black Panther Party, behind Newton and Seal. The Black Panther Party also started community-friendly programs, such as the Free Breakfast for Children program.
This is what embarrassed the United States government, the free breakfast program, because before then, children wasn't served breakfast in school. And this is what embarrassed them. And this is why they really wanted to neutralize the Panther Party, because they were going around saying that they couldn't afford to feed children breakfast in school, yet this new group that formed was able to feed our children breakfast every morning before they went to school. And it was embarrassing to them.
They believed that they could provide for the needs of those in poverty better than the government could. It has been estimated that the Black Panther Party fed more than 20,000 children through this program during the 1968 and 1969 school year. The organization offered other services as well, including clothes distribution, classes on politics and economics, free medical care, and lessons on self-defense and first aid. They also set up an ambulance program and drug rehabilitation services. However,
All this,
the Federal Bureau of Investigation did not agree with many of.
And this is the reason why the federal government came after the Panther Party and other organizations that our people formed, because of all of this good work. See, they hate us more than they want to see our communities flourish.
Many of the organization's paramilitary activities, such as carrying loaded guns. The FBI regarded them as a Black nationalist hate group, and FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover even referred to them as the greatest threat to the internal security of the country. The group was targeted for investigation with the intent of weakening the group's power and damaging their credibility. The Black Panther.
And that's when they started the propaganda. They love to discredit, they love to use their propaganda machine to discredit us and have our people turn against us. And we fight it hook, line, and sinker every single time.
Panther Party continued to exist as an organization.
Salute to my good
throughout
brother,
the
Dangerous
1970s,
Music.
But never regained the prestige they had once enjoyed. Over the course of that decade, their numbers dwindled away until, by 1980, only 27 people were still official members of the Black Panther Party.
Now we're going to go to something totally despicable. A sister mayor was targeted by the former mayor, and she's incriminated and falsely charged with having a gun. And look how he tried to humiliate
On
her.
to a bizarre scene you saw exclusively first on Local 10 News, a chaotic commission meeting that included the mayor's purse being searched by police. A Pembroke Park commissioner accused the mayor of having a gun. It is the latest political drama in this small town of only 6,000 in Local 10.
Now, this is the clear definition of a cracker. He's a cracker because he weaponized the police. Now, he used to be the mayor, and the sister became the mayor and took his job because evidently he wasn't qualified to do the job. And the fact that I think that he targeted the sister was, her last name's Muhammad. She's a female and she's one of us. And she became mayor, and he did all kinds of underhanded and undermining things to her, even had the police come where they were meeting at and search her for a gun. And what's crazy about that is the police entertained the bullshit.
Local 10 News investigator Jeff White here on this case again for us.
Salute to Marco.
With it all. Jeff.
Coming through.
Calvin, the commission meeting was well underway. About an hour in, Pembroke Park's police chief interrupts. And what happens next is something we have never, ever seen in a meeting like this.
Of course, because it's one of us. And it probably, if it's not happening to one of us again, it probably will never happen again.
This is unprecedented, so I apologize for the interruption. Commissioner Jacobs, there was a call from BSO that you called.
I did.
Complaint.
Commissioner Jeffrey Jacobs had called the Broward Sheriff's Office, but he wasn't willing to talk about why on the dais in this public meeting.
It's inappropriate for being on the dais. So we can take a recess and you and I can discuss.
I don't know what the.
So I don't think we need a recess. What's the issue?
FDLE has already been notified as well.
There was a recess. Jacobs met with Pembroke Park's police chief and other staff. And when everyone returned,
The police have been called because there is an allegation by the commissioner that I have a weapon on me, particularly that I have a gun on me.
Mayor Ashira Muhammad allowed the chief to search her purse. Even the chief appeared uncomfortable.
I just want to put on record that you don't have to do this.
The chief searching the mayor's purse right in the commission chambers. Commissioner Jacobs is silent, looking down as this is going on.
Now, I think this commissioner, in my honest sentiment, needs more than a talking to. If you catch my drift, he needs more than a talking to for what he did.
Mayor clearly showing that there's nothing hidden on her body as well. The meeting continued, and Jacobs never says a word about it after. What did you do? What did you say that would lead him to think that you even had a gun?
We didn't have any conversation at all. This isn't the first complaint he's filed on me.
Mayor Muhammad had plenty to say to Jacobs after being searched for a gun.
You have gone around telling people I've stolen money. You've gone around telling people I'm going to jail. You've lied and accused people of having affairs on this dais, and it needs to stop.
This is a cracker. This is the pure definition of a cracker who really needs somebody to talk to him in private. A good brother need to talk to him, have a real strong talk with him in private.
As we have reported, an independent investigation earlier this year concluded Jacobs, who is the former mayor, created a hostile work environment. He was publicly censured for his conduct.
We are constantly being beat down by one person on this dais.
As far as accusing the mayor of having a gun,
I think it's ridiculous, and I think that at this point, you need to seek professional help. Because
I could give him some professional help. I can really do this. Give him some professional help. And I guarantee you, after he and I consult, his behavior change.
Because I've never done anything to you, this has to stop.
Jacobs is absolutely silent, referring us to his attorney who didn't return calls or emails today. The call he made to BSO not released to us today. We are told it's part of an investigation.
To the point that this devil was censored by the city council.
Right now, off the top at 5:30, the Pembroke Park Town Commission has voted to censure and public reprimand their former mayor, who is now a commissioner.
In another very heated meeting, Commissioner Jeffrey Jacobs lashed out at his peers and even made a threat. On Local 10 News investigator Jeff Weinster is live in Pembroke Park with the very latest. Jeff?
He should be called the town bully. At least that is what one employee here tells me off camera. But Commissioner Jeffrey Jacobs believes that he is the victim, that lies are being made up about him. A majority of commissioners here disagree. And as you said,
typical spoiled cracker who victimized people, and he considered himself a victim. He could be made a victim.
This week, they voted to publicly reprimand him.
I will not be silenced. I will not stop.
Former mayor and current Pembroke Park Town Commissioner Jeffrey Jacobs addressing fellow commissioners who unanimously voted to publicly reprimand him for his behavior, claiming he violated the town's code of conduct.
But here's the deal. Free speech. Free speech.
See, it's ways to censor him, and he won't be able to make any type of speeches. It's ways of censoring him that he won't be able to make. He won't be able to publicly speak. It's ways of doing that he could be guaranteed not be able to speak. But what these people do is allow themselves to be bullied by one man. One man, all these people sitting around here, and nobody thought to actually step to him and let him know that his behavior is not going to be tolerated. He do it because he got no pushback. All he got was talk, and nobody actually let him know emphatically that his behavior would not be tolerated, and if it continued, it'd be dire consequences.
Jacobs even making threatening allegations.
And there will be commissioners here that are going to end up in jail or prison. It's going to happen, along with former employees and commissioners.
Jacobs wasn't specific about what commissioners have done. In a statement to Local 10 News, he says, quote, "Their excessive focus on me is concerning, as they are actively and illegally working together in an attempt to remove me from my position." That is still not specific. Jacobs is already being investigated by the town for creating a hostile work environment. The resolution to now censure him was read on the record.
While mayor, Commissioner Jacobs sent a homophobic and misogynistic video to a gay town employee, exposing the town to serious potential liability. Whereas, as further noted, Commissioner Jacobs allegedly referred to an employee of Jewish heritage as a Nazi at a town event. Whereas Commissioner Jacobs has, at public meetings, referred to the town as a, quote, hole and a, quote, show.
Commissioner William Hodgkins sponsored the resolution after he claims Jacobs called him ignorant and stupid.
The truth hurts sometimes. The truth really does, because you're speaking about things you don't know anything about.
Look, I'm not going to stoop to your level of...
Wait, this is my chance to talk, so zip it.
As far as calling the human resources director a Nazi?
I don't remember ever saying that, and I don't think I've ever really called anybody a Nazi before. But there are other choice words, four-letter words that I would use to describe you. I am not misogynistic and homophobic, and you guys continue to perpetuate a lie. As for calling the town a hole or show, that is 100% true.
Jacobs claims he got the town on track when he was mayor, but there is now a new majority on the dais.
This town's going to fall apart because of the commission. You're not going to silence me. You will not violate my First Amendment, and I will always be here to clean this town up after you guys are gone.
This public reprimand does not come with any penalties, but again, the town is investigating him for creating a hostile.
See, this is what people need to do when a town is unfit to govern.
It's almost like a fantasy of freedom-loving Americans to take their current government, show them.
I know everybody who's watching is going to love this, but this is what people need to do. This is inspiring. And when people are unfit to govern people, this is what the people need to do. This need to spread and catch on.
Show them the door, kick them down the steps, and change the locks. Well, that literally just happened in a small town in Michigan. Not the kick them down the steps part, but they did unseat their entire government and they did change the locks on the former government's offices. People often say, you can't fight City Hall. Well, you can't say that to the people of Green Charter Township, Michigan anymore because they did just that. They fought and got every last one of the town-hating scoundrels in their government ousted. Residents of Green Charter Township, Michigan, strongly disapproved of their local township board's decision to greenlight the construction of a Chinese-connected electric vehicle battery plant in their community. The name of the company is Goshen.
Yeah, the Chinese is buying up all the farmland right along with Bill Gates, and they're doing all this electrification and this fake food and everything. And these people wasn't having it in their city, town, borough, whatever it is.
It's billed as an energy solutions battery technology company with locations in Fremont, California, Independence, Ohio, Germany, Shanghai, and Singapore. The project was expected to create more than 2,300 jobs as part of a $2.34 billion investment. And by the way, Chinese entities currently own more than 383,000 acres of U.S. farmland, and some Americans have had enough. Despite the backlash from residents, the board moved forward with the Chinese-affiliated project.
One race you probably did not see on the front pages of most newspapers, at least, and it's a race that's sending shockwaves from one small town in Michigan all the way to China. Voters in a small Michigan township tossed out their entire town board last night. A locksmith was even brought in to change the locks on the ousted officials' former offices late night. They were voted out because they supported a controversial battery plant linked to the Chinese government.
We're in the town hall. It's very strange because the government is just gone. They all packed up yesterday. This was the supervisor's office. He took his desk, took a bunch of other stuff. It's empty now. The clerk's office down here, Elizabeth, where they do a lot of the town business, is just empty. The new board members are going to move in, get everything going, and they say one of their biggest priorities is stopping that project that's associated with China. There's a new government in Green Charter Township, Michigan, and they didn't waste any time changing the locks at the town hall. Residents ousted their entire town board last night, upset after they approved plans for a massive Chinese-affiliated electric vehicle battery plant.
I think they thought we were a bunch of local yokel rednecks that wouldn't do anything, and we were blessed with a crew that was very intelligent.
But it's been a long journey to this point. When we first arrived in Green Charter Township last year, residents were angry.
My family members fought communism, and you're bringing it right here. Everybody's entitled to an opinion, and guess what China's is? They don't like us.
The township board was not answering our questions about secret deals with Chinese-affiliated company Goshen.
Mr. Jernstead, my name is Brian Enton. I'm a reporter with News Nation. Do you have a contract with Goshen involving your land?
No comment.
Did you sell Goshen your land?
I don't know yet.
Despite the backlash from what seemed like almost everyone in the town, the board moved forward with the Chinese-affiliated project. What do you make of the Chinese connection?
Well, it's very disturbing because, for one, from the beginning, there's been a complete denial of the connection.
So why here? Why do you
I don't know, other than somebody must be benefiting from it.
See, this needs to catch on. Anything we don't want in our community shouldn't be there. I don't care what it is, because if it's enough of us, they can't deny us whatever type of government that we want in our city, if it's enough of us, especially if it's predominantly us. That's the problem. We have a minority of people in the government, and some of us need to take over and get those positions. If we are predominantly in a city, we should be running the city, not somebody else. that probably don't even live in the city, just work in the city. And it's crazy how we allow people, we complain about what's in our city, and we allow others that's not in our city or live in our city to come govern over us. It makes no sense.
From it.
That was Corey Rebo back in April. She had no experience in politics, but ran for clerk and won last night. What can you do now to stop the Goshen Project?
We just plan on making it as difficult as possible for them to continue their process. They don't even.
Now we're going to move on to an investigation of California Highway Patrol.
State senators, council members, city council leaders, community members all put out this
from this shooting. From the shooting of a police officer was struggling with a brother, and he got up. When he got up, he shot down, shooting the brother, standing over him, shooting him.
This lengthy joint statement calling for peace during this investigation. And
see, that's the problem I have when the so-called peace officer, police officer, who's supposed to maintain the peace, assure us of the peace, when they break the peace with their actions, they want us to be peaceful while we wait for them to investigate themselves and find no wrongdoing after investigating themselves, and find no wrongdoing with shooting into a brother standing over him. It shouldn't be no peace.
And we do want to warn you, this video is disturbing, but we will pause it just before the shooting. Calls for peace from community leaders as this video is shared widely online. These are the moments before a deadly shooting on the 105 freeway in Willowbrook Sunday afternoon. The California Highway Patrol released a preliminary report Monday night. It says around 3:30 Sunday afternoon, they got multiple calls about a person walking against traffic on the freeway.
I guess he's going to say he thought it was his taser. That's the go-to today. I thought it was my taser. If you can't distinguish a taser from a firearm, you shouldn't be a cop in the first place. First, a taser, most case scenario, is put in a cross draw position on your weak side, not your strong side where your firearm is. It's on the cross draw position, and it's also fluorescent in color, like a green or yellow or a bright ass red or orange. So if you can't distinguish a taser from your firearm, you shouldn't even be a cop.
Freeway. An officer approached him. Multiple attempts to persuade the man off the freeway failed, and that's when a scuffle ensued. CHP says the man used a taser against the officer, which is when the officer used their gun on the man, missing the first time, then firing 3 or 4 more rounds. The Department of Justice is now investigating the use of force.
It looks bad. This is a person on his back.
Roger Clark is a former LA County Sheriff's deputy and a use of force expert. He says the witness cell phone video will be a key part of the investigation.
You do not engage with a subject, gun in hand, period. I mean, that is fundamental training. And he's on his back and he gets up and then he shoots. And so there has to be a credible threat. And my calculus is OC spray on an officer who's on his feet and can reposition is not a credible threat.
DOJ agents will consider the officer's statement, officer body camera video, witness statements, and ultimately make a ruling on whether the shooting was justified. And California Attorney General Rob Bonta is also conducting an independent review of that use of force incident. The victim has not yet been identified. I also reached out to all the members who released this call for peace to ask if there was some sort of protest or incident that sparked the call for peace, and have yet to hear back tonight. In Hollywood, Samantha Cortese, KTLA 5 News.
They're corrupt to the core. No matter where we go, they're corrupt to the core.
Were the textbook representation of the American rule.
This video, I'm going to go to the federal government and how the oil tycoon who became president, you know, he embodies the so-called elite, and he's a war criminal, George Herbert Walker Bush. Fair use. Shout out to the Real News Network, courtesy of them. This clip is courtesy of the Real News Network.
Former United States President George H.W. Bush died on November 30th, 2018. And while leading Democrats joined the GOP in celebrating the Republican leader as a hero, honoring him in a bipartisan ceremony, the real Bush left behind a murderous legacy full of war crimes across the planet. The corporate media and director of the CIA as a statesman who committed his life to his country. But Bush's patriotism was not rooted in devotion to the average working class American people. Instead, he was an elite custodian of capitalism and empire. From Iraq to Panama, George H.W. Bush was responsible for countless deaths. And far from being the moderate voice of reason he is now being presented as in the era of Trumpism, Bush...
There's no such thing as a voice of reason when it comes to the United States federal government.
Paved the way for right-wing extremists to take control of the U.S. empire he so carefully preserved. If one had to succinctly summarize George H.W. Bush in a single moment, it would be in the eve of his presidency in 1988. On July 3rd of that year, the U.S. government shot down an Iranian civilian plane, killing all 290 passengers on board, including 66 children. The United States adamantly refused to apologize for this horrific atrocity. Bush was then vice president under Ronald Reagan and was in the middle of his own campaign for president. At a GOP event just a month later, in August, Bush indirectly responded to the U.S. massacre of Iranian civilians with the following infamous words.
I'll never apologize for the United States of America. Ever. I don't care what the facts are.
This lone quote says so much about the 41st U.S. president.
Did you hear that, devil? He would never apologize for the United States. I don't care what the facts are. I don't care if I killed civilians, including 66 children. I will never apologize for that. Now, that is wickedness.
President. It is a concise representation of the imperial hubris and chauvinism that Bush was the physical embodiment of. He refused to apologize for the crimes of the U.S. empire and did not give a damn about the facts. George H.W. Bush's family, life, and world were the textbook representation of the American ruling class, combining together the CIA, the oil industry, elite Ivy League universities, and even Nazi Germany. Bush was born in 1924 into an elite capitalist family. His grandfather, Samuel Bush, was a corporate steel and railroad executive who oversaw U.S. government contracts with weapons corporations during World War I.
I was just about to say, don't forget the merchants of death that they are also.
H.W.'s father, Prescott Bush, was an even more notorious figure. In 1918, as a member of Yale University's elite secret society Skull and Bones, Prescott and his peers dug up the grave of former Native American leader Geronimo and stole his skull. Prescott Bush then went on to become a bank executive on Wall Street. And during the Holocaust, the Bush family patriarch even profited from the genocidal Hitler regime. As the newspaper The Guardian reported in 2004, even after America had entered the war and when there was already significant information about the Nazis' plans and policies, he worked for and profited from companies closely involved with the very German businesses that financed Hitler's rise to power. It has also been suggested that the money he made from these dealings helped to establish the Bush family fortune and set up its political dynasty. Although the assets of Prescott Bush's company were seized by the U.S. government in 1942 under the Trading with the Enemy Act, this did not stop him from pursuing a political career. A decade later, in 1952, Bush was elected to the U.S. Senate, representing Connecticut. George H.W. Bush followed in the footsteps of his father. He went to Yale University and was also a member of the elite secret society Skull and Bones. After graduation, Bush moved to Texas and entered the oil industry. In 1953, he co-founded the Zapata Petroleum Corporation and quickly became a millionaire. In the early 1960s, before Bush officially entered politics, he also secretly started to work with the CIA. Journalist Joseph McBride noted, quote, Bush started working for the agency in 1960 or 19.
So when did he become the director of the CIA?
1961, using his oil business as a cover for clandestine activities. After over a decade of building up his fortune in the oil industry, Bush then moved on to politics. He was elected to the House of Representatives in 1966, representing Texas. But that was just the beginning. Bush then became U.S. ambassador to the United Nations and subsequently chairman of the Republican National Committee. And then in 1976, Bush was appointed Director of Central Intelligence. After secretly working with the CIA for over a decade, Bush, a staunchly conservative Cold Warrior, was now the chief of it. Historian Greg Grandin wrote, quote, Bush helmed the CIA when it was working closely with Latin American death squads grouped under Operation Condor. This was the height of the Cold War, and after the CIA had already violently overthrown numerous democratically elected governments throughout the global South, from Iran to Guatemala to Chile, the U.S. continued supporting far-right military dictatorships and death squads throughout Latin America. This was also at a time when Bush was developing deeper ties to Saudi Arabia, one of the world's largest oil producers and a key U.S. ally in the Cold War. With U.S. backing, the Saudi monarchy supported right-wing Islamist groups, many of which were extremists, to undermine secular socialist and communist forces in the Middle East. And through both oil and politics, Bush and his family maintained close links to Saudi elites, including the powerful bin Laden family. Historian Greg Grandin likewise pointed out that it was Bush who helped facilitate Ronald Reagan's escalation of the Cold War through the infamous Iran-Contra scandal.
Remember that.
Bush served as vice president under President Reagan during this scandal, in which the Republican administration sold weapons to Iran in order to fund far-right Contra death squads in Nicaragua.
Peace to my good brother, Big Dog Philly OG. Do a mic check, good brother.
Mic check, mic check. Much love and respect, brother. To you and the family, much love and respect to everybody in the chat.
Much love and respect to you also, brother. Loud and clear, brother. What you think so far, brother? I know you know this already, but I know you because we lived through all this. The Iran Contra scandal and all this other stuff. We lived through this stuff. This happened. We was teenagers when this happened. But this.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It brings back memories. It's just shown how factual you are with your information and the information we're talking about. You know,
Yes.
that we talk about divorce in the system and why we should do it and all the corruption and all the, man, it's mind blowing. Go ahead, brother. I tap in.
Indeed.
When Bush succeeded Reagan as the 41st president, he used his authority to pardon the conspirators involved in the Iran-Contra scandal, thereby preventing an investigation.
Did you hear that? He pardoned them when he got the power to do so. The same thing that Trump probably would do to the people, to the January 6th people, if he became president. He's going to pardon everybody if he becomes president.
Big fact,
To his own criminal activity. Many observers have noted that by doing this, George H.W. Bush helped set the precedent that Donald Trump would later exploit as president. But this paled in comparison to Bush's most egregious crimes. In 1989, the administration of the newly inaugurated President Bush invaded the tiny Central American nation of Panama in order to oust dictator Manuel Noriega, who had himself been a longtime CIA asset, who for years...
Exactly. What do I always say, big dog? They do the dirt with you to get the dirt on you.
Yes, sir.
Emmanuel Noriega was their boy, and they had the dirt on him because they was doing the dirt with him, and they used it against him later.
Same
For
thing with
years worked closely
Osama
with
bin Laden.
Exactly. And Saddam Hussein.
And all of them.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
United States, helping it to fund right-wing death squads while he was trafficking drugs. The U.S. brutally bombed Panama, burning down thousands of homes, leading to the nickname Little Hiroshima.
The reason why they bombed them is because Emmanuel Noriega reneged on a drug deal that he had with the United States. That's why they bombed him. There was nothing but some drug shit.
Historian Greg Grandin noted that the bodies of dead Panamanians were shoveled into mass graves. But Bush's bloodiest atrocities were yet to come. In August 1990, Iraq militarily occupied and annexed its southern neighbor Kuwait. The Bush administration wanted a war in response, and in order to sell this war, it spread blatant lies. In October 1990, a 15-year-old Kuwaiti girl testified before the U.S. Congressional Human Rights Caucus and claimed,
"While I was there, I saw the Iraqi soldiers come into the hospital with guns. They took the babies out of the incubators, and left the children to die on the cold."
Peace to the Michigander. Salute to my brother, Juan Truth. You know it, brother. Hip hop forever.
Hey, real quick, brother, before you play the video. What really brought me up here is when the Bush said he wouldn't apologize for any fact that we brought up that was done.
He said, I don't care what the facts say. I'm not apologizing for killing children. And they got this little girl over here. Even if it is a little girl, because they could have got a grown woman to testify that looks like a little girl, but for the sake of argument, they got this little girl to play the harp strings on behalf of the Kuwaitis and to set a precedent to go to war with Iraq over Kuwait.
And brother, like you said, one president cleans up the other president's mess once they get in office. And that's what we've been seeing them do every 4 to 8 years, clean up each other's mess and cover it up.
Exactly.
Go ahead, brother.
Exactly. And then after that, they make their own mess.
Big facts.
It was horrifying.
Human rights organizations like Amnesty International obediently echoed this myth, and George H.W. Bush used it to justify a war on Iraq.
See, it's ironic how they can get her to say that they walked up in hospitals with guns and beware of babies and incubators, but this man said he won't apologize for killing 66 children, bombing a plane, shooting a plane down with civilians in it, and killed over 300 people, including 66 children. That's a wicked man. And let me tell you something. His son, I mean, he's a son of a Bush, son of a Bush.
And
had
brother,
kids in incubators,
not only
and
that,
they were thrown.
My bad. Not only that, all the shit they were doing to us here.
While they was doing that.
While they was doing that. Go ahead, brother.
Exactly.
Thrown out of the incubators so that Kuwait could be systematically dismantled.
It was only after this war, in 1992, that it was revealed that this 15-year-old girl was actually the daughter of Kuwait's ambassador to the U.S., and that the lies she spread had been orchestrated by a PR firm on behalf of the Kuwaiti monarchy. But remember, Bush had declared just a few years ago that he didn't care what the facts are. In 1991, the 41st US president launched a war on Iraq, and it was extremely brutal. Under Bush's leadership, the US military deliberately targeted civilian infrastructure, devastating the country. Just weeks after the end of the war, the United Nations published a survey analyzing the civilian damage done by US bombing. The UN found that Iraq was, quote, near apocalyptic, that it had been bombed back, quote, to a pre-industrial age, and that the country was on the verge of a, quote, epidemic and famine. The US military also used depleted uranium weapons in Iraq, leading to birth defects, high cancer rates, and
OG, does that sound like anything consistent with the Geneva Convention? Or do it sound like a war crime?
A war crime, brother.
Bombing hospitals, malls, restaurants.
Civilians.
They
broke every Geneva code that there was.
Exactly. Nobody adheres to that, but they want to be the world police and the standard bearers with no type of moral example whatsoever.
Environmental damage that Iraqis are still suffering from to this day. Even the Washington Post, which supported the war, acknowledged 4 months after it that the US and its allies, quote, sought to achieve some of their military objectives in the Persian Gulf War by disabling Iraqi society at large. And the US, quote, deliberately did great harm to Iraq's ability to support itself as an industrial society. Precision-guided weapons were used to specifically target electrical plants, oil refineries, and the transportation grid. The US destroyed more than 100 bridges, along with roads, railroads, factories, phone networks, and TV and radio stations.
That's wicked.
The Pentagon later admitted that it intentionally demolished Iraq's electricity infrastructure, reducing the country's power generation level after the war by 96%.
So how could they stand up on a rostrum and talk about the axis of evil and all this other stuff with all what they did? These people who they call evil did nothing compared to them, to the United States under these government officials. This is wicked.
Big facts, brother.
Knocking it back to the level that Iraq had in 1920. A lieutenant general told the Washington Post that the psychological impact.
Age. They put them in Stone Age. That's crazy. Go ahead, brother.
Stone Age, brother.
That average Iraqi citizens would suffer from after losing their electricity was a, quote, side benefit. One of the most extreme.
You see how they just diminished that down to a side benefit, bro?
Yes, sir.
They did that. Oh, that's a side benefit. Whew, it's wicked, bro.
U.S. crimes was committed on February 13th, 1991, when the military used laser-guided smart bombs to destroy a shelter full of civilians.
Now, I know you know, OG, to those of us who don't know what a smart bomb is, it's a bomb with a drill. If somebody's in a shelter, a fallout shelter or something, a drill goes down first and then a bomb comes after the drill and it incinerates everybody in the damn hole. Am I correct, OG?
Yes, sir.
And they did this to civilians.
And they also mentioned the laser technology. That's what that laser do, cutting right through whatever the hell is there.
Wow.
To detonate the bomb afterwards.
It's crazy.
408 Iraqi civilians were massacred in this U.S. attack, and the Pentagon itself admitted that the Amaria shelter that it bombed was being used by civilians seeking protection.
See what it says? Geneva International Center for Justice. This is a rule internationally by the United Nations that the whole world come together and they determine what the rules of engagement is and what war is supposed to consist of. If I'm correct, you're only supposed to bomb military targets and not civilian areas. But that's not what the United States and other governments, in particular, the United States don't do this. But they want to be the moral standard of the world and the world police, again, with no moral credibility.
Even more blood-curdling was an atrocity that was so heinous it earned the name the Highway of Death. On February 26th and 27th, the US and allies Britain, France, and Canada bombed Iraqi soldiers as they tried to flee Kuwait and return to Iraq. Thousands of fleeing Iraqis were massacred. There were even reportedly some civilians among the soldiers as they tried to flee, including foreign workers and Palestinians who were expelled by the Kuwaiti monarchy. They were all bombed to pieces. Thousands died. The exact number of victims is unknown. The aftermath of the Gulf War was beyond catastrophic. A Harvard public health team investigated and found that Iraq had acute malnutrition and epidemic levels of the preventable diseases cholera and typhoid. The Harvard team also estimated that at least 170,000 Iraqi children under age 5 would die in the year after the war due to the effects of the US bombing. The Washington Post noted, quote, "Planners now say their intent was to destroy or damage valuable facilities that Baghdad could not repair without foreign assistance."
Is this not earning the hate that the world has for the United States? This is earning the hate. Doing this. They're supposed to have love for you, and the world's supposed to have love for you after this? It's crazy.
The Bush administration deliberately made the lives of millions of Iraqis complete hell to try to force them into such desperation that they would overthrow their leader. And even when the 1991 Gulf War ended, the Bush 41 administration's war on Iraqi society continued. The US used the United Nations Security Council to expand crippling sanctions on Iraq, which banned all trade with the country. These sanctions, which were further continued under subsequent President Bill Clinton, led to the deaths of hundreds of thousands of Iraqi children and other civilians. In response to these reports of mass civilian devastation from US bombing, George H.W. Bush's Secretary of Defense, Dick Cheney, insisted that every target was, quote,
who became vice president. George Herbert Walker Bush, I think he passed away. May he rest in peace.
Perfectly legitimate. He declared, quote, "If I had to do it over again, I would do exactly the same thing." Bush Sr.'s Secretary of Defense Dick Cheney would go on to become Bush Jr.'s vice president and the brains behind George W. Bush's foreign policy and his own second war on Iraq a decade later. Moreover, H.W. Bush's chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Colin Powell, later served as W. Bush's Secretary of State. Given the overlap between Bush 41's administration and that of Bush 43, it is no surprise that Bush Jr. followed in his father's footsteps, launching another devastating war in the Middle East, which destabilized the region and led to more than 1 million deaths.
And they got paid a lot of money. There was a whole lot of contracts over there getting that money. And also, as the brother Hurricane JW just stated in the chat, Dick Cheney killed the man on a hunting trip. He killed the man on a hunting trip. And he said it was an accident, but he's a murderer. So a murderer don't kill by accident.
These crimes fly directly in the face of the corporate media's portrayal of George H.W. Bush as a principled moderate and expose the cynicism behind the attempts to distance him from the political horrors that followed. While Google made a doodle dedicated to H.W.'s passing, and while neoliberal centrist leaders of the Democratic Party tried to rehabilitate Bush as a resistance figure against Donald Trump, The reality is that he and the Bush family only helped set the stage for the rise of far-right Trumpism. Even the explicit racism and the dog whistling to fascists and white supremacists that Donald Trump has weaponized is far from new. HW engaged in it as well. During his 1988 campaign for president, Bush and his supporters resorted to using racist undertones to attack his Democratic opponent, Michael Dukakis. Specifically, they exploited the case of Willie Horton, a black man who was imprisoned for murder and rape, but who escaped from prison after being temporarily released on a weekend furlough program in Massachusetts. Far-right writer Ann Coulter, a staunch Donald Trump supporter who regularly contributes to a white supremacist website, described the HW camp's racist exploitation of the Willie Horton scandal as, quote, Bush's finest 30 seconds. Journalist Russ
It's gonna get deeper than this, brother OG, on the next video.
Bellunt, the author of the book Old Nazis, the New Right and the Republican Party, also documented how former Nazi collaborators from Eastern Europe helped get Bush elected president. Fascist, staunch anti-communists who immigrated to the US from socialist Eastern Bloc countries during the Cold War later took leadership positions in the Republican National Committee's ethnic outreach groups and strongly supported Bush. A lifelong Cold Warrior, Bush was also president when US-backed counter-revolutions overthrew the Eastern Bloc in 1990 and 1991. He subsequently helped oversee brutal neoliberal capitalist reforms that were referred to as shock therapy and that led to millions of unnecessary deaths in the former Soviet Union. Under Bush's leadership, the US pressured these former socialist governments to engage in mass privatizations, selling off state-owned industries and assets for pennies on the dollar. This US-backed neoliberal shock therapy established the network of capitalist oligarchs who control Eastern Europe still today. This was just one of the many policies that George H.W. Bush oversaw that the world is still reeling from in 2018. It was not just war crimes and CIA spying, oil drilling, and racist dog whistling that defined Bush's life. In 1990, the 41st US president heralded in what he proudly called a new world order. Capitalism.
I was just about to say that. He's the one who stood up there and said, you know, who ushered in what's going on now. Again, I know you know, OG, because you was there. I was there. He's the one who made the speech to usher in the new world order.
And that's
Capitalism had won the global war on social.
One of the reasons. I'm gonna be real quick, brother. That's one of the reasons why I say, you know, we can't overthrow this system, because they implemented that 20 something, almost 30 years ago.
Yeah, like what, 1990?
Yes, sir.
Bro, look at the date, bro. Look at the date on what. See the date here, bro. September 11th, 1990. See, they did. I wish my brother was here. He'll know what to give us when it comes to this numerology.
Yes, sir. Marco. Yes, sir.
He would know exactly what to give us. He'll make, you know, something of these numbers, because he's sharp with that. But this is 9/11/90.
Socialism, and Bush was the leader of the only remaining superpower in the world. The United States of America was the global hegemon, and its military and corporations ruled all. American imperialism had triumphed and would spend the next 3 decades imposing the Washington Consensus on the planet. In this way, George H.W. Bush did much more than just pave the way for his son and eventually Donald Trump to take power. Even more importantly, as Bush stood there with the last Soviet premier, Mikhail Gorbachev, Bush was being anointed king of the neoliberal era, the seeds of which had been planted by his predecessor, Ronald Reagan. That neoliberal era died in 2016 with the election of Donald Trump, the resurgence of far-right and fascist movements across the globe, and with a renewed socialist left and the implosion of the bipartisan centrist consensus. After his passing, Bush was commemorated as a skilled leader, and he was indeed skilled in the art of.
They called this man a skilled diplomat. He did nothing that he did was diplomatic. It was all about violence and takeover. Skilled diplomat, or I guess dropping bombs on people and killing them is diplomatic.
Empire, warmongering, and reaction. Bush was the last competent manager of the American ruling class. He came from the elite, from the rich and the powerful, and he left them even richer on his deathbed. Bush was a lifelong custodian of U.S. imperialism and capitalism.
Which gives me, triggered my mind. See, regardless of how much money we get, OG, we're not allowed to do this. He said he left his family richer. We're not allowed to do this. That's what you call generational wealth. You die and you leave your children and your whole entire family with a fortune. Everybody, all these devils seated with him are rich people. Every last one of them.
Good. None of them ever have to work a day again in their life.
He bears significant.
Exactly. None of them probably ever worked a day, especially those young folks. They never worked a day in their life.
Never.
None of them. And will never have to work a day in their life. They got libraries and shit named after their father and their great-grandfather. And I'm beginning to think every last one of these jokers is related, including Obama. Every last one of them. You probably can't become president unless you some type of, I don't care how many times cousin you are, they probably all related.
Royal bloodline
responsibility
family. Yes,
for ushering in the new world order that followed him, the one whose demons we're all grappling with today. Bush 41 supporters have tried to absolve him for the state of the country and the world that he left behind. But George H.W. Bush cannot be separated from it. After all, he refused to ever apologize for his country and cared little for inconvenience.
May he rest in peace.
Facts.
I'll never apologize for the United States of America. Ever. I don't care what the facts are.
For the Real News Network.
Now we're going to go to who benefits from war.
Welcome back to Reality Asserts Itself on the Real News Network. I'm Paul Jay. We're continuing our series of interviews with John Kiriakou. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And just to remind everybody.
Did I skip something? I think I skipped something. I don't want to skip this.
Former United States President George H.W. Bush.
This one right here is the one.
Welcome back to Reality Asserts Itself on the Real News Network. I'm Paul Jay. We're continuing our series of interviews with John Kiriakou. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And just to remind everybody, John's a former CIA officer, yes? And you'll find his whole biography below here. And I'm hoping you've watched the earlier segments because this is going to make a heck of a lot more sense if you have, because we're working our way through John's life.
The name of this video is Why Didn't Bush and Cheney Prevent 9/11? I know why. I'm sure the brother know why. I'm sure the intelligent brothers and sisters in the chat know why. Because if 9/11 would have never happened, if they never cooked the bomb and allowed it to happen, create the atmosphere, they wouldn't be all over the world. It would have never been no Iraqi war, Afghan war. It probably would have, but not because of this. They can go all over the world now and just say they're fighting terrorism and commit terrorism all over the world. And it's a lot of money to be made with war. And those blind patriots out there wouldn't be supportive. We got blind patriots out there that support anything that the United States say. All they got to do is say they're fighting terrorism. All they got to do is create a boogeyman, and they can go all over the world and just steal from people. Basically, that's what they do. They go all over the world and steal from people, and there's no outcry when they do this because they think that the United States is doing the right thing. They thought. Now the people are waking up. They're waking up to seeing them for who they truly are.
You left Greece. You came back in the year 2000, and Langley, you're working on Greek terrorism.
Big fat Hurricane J-Dub.
And then 9/11. So where are you, and how does it affect you?
I was at CIA headquarters that day. I was supposed to go to the White House that morning with Cofer Black, later Ambassador Cofer Black. Cofer, at the time, was the director of the CIA's Counterterrorism Center. And we had a meeting scheduled that morning with Condoleezza Rice, who at the time was the National Security Advisor, to discuss a Greek issue, which seems quaint now. But I had taken a call from a driver who said that our car was ready and to come out to the side entrance to ride to the White House.
Now, before we can do that trip, what's the mood at CIA? Because we know now, according to George Tenet, that he had told President Bush when he first presidential national security briefing that the number one threat to the United States is Osama bin Laden and Al Qaeda. That summer, leading up to 9/11, Richard Clarke says our hair is on fire. We know now that there were at least 4 or 5, and maybe quite a few more, very specific pieces of intelligence that suggested there was going to be an attack. In fact, it was even known some of the people that ended up on the planes that even had been identified pre-9/11. There's a lot going on. Now, I know you're working on the Greek file, but how much are you getting a sense of this?
Well, I mentioned this in my book. In July the 6th, 2001.
Of course, they knew that something was going to happen on September 11th. There was nothing coincidental about it. If you look at it carefully with a critical eye, nothing coincidental. All that shit was straight up blatant. Come on. Now, World Trade Center 7 was like a mile away from the Twin Towers. How did that building fall? That building fell like 8 hours later. World Trade Center 7. And that building fell further away when there's buildings that was right next to that building that's standing today. Make that shit make sense.
I was asked to spend the day with a visiting group of Arab intelligence officers. They came to have a day of briefings and meetings and handshakes and gift exchanges. And we did this kind of thing all the time with our foreign partners. So as part of that day of briefings, I had asked for briefings from the Osama bin Laden group in the CIA's Counterterrorism Center. Much to my surprise, they did not send a mid-level analyst, which is what I had expected, to do this briefing. Cofer Black himself came, and Cofer at the time was the director of the CIA's Counterterrorism Center, then called the Counterterrorist Center. And Cofer started off this briefing by saying, and these were his exact words, he said, something terrible is going to happen. We don't know when and we don't know where, but we know that it's something on an unprecedented scale. He said, the mood in the Al-Qaeda training camps is one of jubilation.
OJ, remember when George W. Bush was in the school reading to the children while all this?
Yes, sir. I remember that. Yes, sir.
He didn't look surprised. He didn't look like, if an emergency was going on. He looked like, okay, it's happening. They're carrying it out. He was like shaking his head like, now, if you was the mayor of a city and shit like that was going on, you'd be like, I am in charge of the safety of the people of this city. I would see that as a a dire emergency, and then the teacher would have to take over reading to those children. I gotta go. I got responsibilities. But he sat there, nodded his head, like, okay, they doing it. And he wanted to go in Iraq because when they said it's Afghanistan, he said we're going into Iraq anyway. And Osama bin Laden or Saddam Hussein had absolutely nothing to do with what happened in New York and in DC and Pennsylvania. And what's crazy about that, they make heroes out of people as if we're stupid. Like the guys on the plane. How he said this, let's go. He said, you know, when they attacked the so-called hijacker, let's go, let's do this. How would they know he said all that?
Exactly. He's speaking Arabic.
How would they know the guy how would he know the guy who so-called rushed the plane that went down? How would they know what this man is saying on the plane? He on the phone with them? And then who gets on the phone with their loved one and say their full name? It's like I get on the phone. It's like you getting on your phone and say, "Mom, it's me, Leonardo Harrison." Your mom know who you are. She named you. Who gets on the phone with their loved one and say their full name like their parent or their loved one don't know them? But this is what they was doing on the plane. They said they was doing on the plane, calling their loved one, saying it's me, and saying their full name. And because the shit was recorded and they knew it was recorded.
That's what the military teach you. Basically, if you ever get captured, only give them your name, your rank,
and serial number.
Your last four.
Exactly. But why would a civilian on a commercial jet do that while calling home because he's been hijacked?
Exactly.
I know there's protocol in the military, and that's what lead me to think there was military making those phone calls.
We're hearing trainers speaking to their students and crying and saying, "I'll see you in paradise." We're hearing code words used to describe a major attack. The salesman is coming with vast quantities of honey. There's going to be a great soccer match, things like that. And he said, we've never seen anything like this before. Our problem is we don't know when, and we don't know exactly what the target is. And he said, I beg you, if you have any sources inside Al-Qaeda, please help us. Well, these guys were silent. I think, frankly, they were stunned into silence, as I was. And at the end of the day, after they had left, I went to his office to thank Kofor for spending the time doing the briefing. Again, this was very unusual. And I said to him, Kofor, I have to ask you, was that for their benefit? Or are things really that bad? And he said, things really are that bad. We're going to get hit, and it's going to be terrible.
This is July of 2001. Mm-hmm. Now, we know there were various sections of the military intelligence and other areas in
OG, do you believe any of this? I don't believe none of this.
No, sir. None of it.
I don't believe none of this.
Of various intelligence agencies that were trying to model what the next tech might be.
Yes.
One of those models from military intelligence was planes hitting the Twin Towers. One of them might even fall down. Mm-hmm. We did an earlier report on this. Some investigative journalist, Jason Leopold was one of them, actually talked to one of the guys who was running that unit. That information, as far as we know, was suppressed in a sense. It may have not made its way up the food chain, which is rather odd. Richard Clark talks about, in fact, did an interview just a couple of years ago, which we also have, we ran on the Real News Network, with some critical information that never made it to him. And he said that information in the normal course of things would have made it to him. Someone had to intervene.
Now we're going to move on to war profiteering. War profiteering. How many U.S. companies profit?
At the UN General Assembly this week, the U.S. and Russia pointed fingers at one another for the devastating war in Syria and the resulting refugee crisis. Obama took a subtle jab at Putin's defense of the Syrian government, saying,
in accordance with this logic, we should support tyrants like Bashar al-Assad, who drops barrel bombs to massacre innocent children, because the alternative is surely worse.
Obama's kind of right about Russia. The country has sent tanks and aircraft as well as military advisors to beef up Assad's defenses. But the U.S. is by no means an innocent bystander. Weapons the U.S. supplied to rebel opposition groups in Syria have inadvertently ended up in the hands of al-Qaeda. And in Iraq, weapons meant for the Iraqi army ended up in the hands of ISIS.
You know, it's amazing how they call these people terrorists when they're under tyranny in their land, like the Palestinians, and like the people in Syria, like the people in Iraq and Iran and Afghanistan. They call the people terrorists when they are under tyranny and they're only resistance groups. That's all they are. And they're fighting tyranny in their country. That's all they're doing is fighting tyranny in their country. But they're being labeled terrorists, and the United States is committing the same tyranny over here, but they're going over there telling people how to live 9,000 miles away.
In fact, the U.S. happens to be the biggest arms supplier in the world. The U.S. has supplied countries like Israel, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt with complex weapon systems, even as their governments have been blamed for committing human rights abuses with those weapons. The thing is, the weapons industry is big business, worth $85 billion worldwide. U.S. companies, including Lockheed Martin and Boeing, sold more than $23.7 billion in arms last year to nearly 100 different countries. And arms exports have actually increased under Obama by 23%, the most of any administration since World War II. The majority of U.S. weapons exports end up in Asia and Oceania, although the Middle East received 32% of all exports in 2014. And because domestic sales have declined in recent years, U.S. companies have all the more reason to look abroad. Earlier this year, Lockheed Martin's CEO, Marilyn Houston, said that the company is looking at the, quote, volatility
And brother,
in the Middle East.
that's another lie that they just said, because sales did not go down here in America. We still been buying guns and buying ammunition. So that was a lie she just said.
Exactly. They're not going to keep it all the way totally real, bro. Sales is up because, you know, we have our own gun clubs now. We are starting our own gun clubs because we know that we got to lock and load. We know we have to because we're being victimized, and it's a natural law and it's a natural right that no one can give you and take away from you. And that's the right to defend yourself and your family. Nobody can give you that right. You don't need permission for that.
The way to increase their sales internationally.
In both of those regions, which are growth areas for us, we expect that there's going to continue to be opportunities for us to bring our capabilities to them.
In other words, the more war, the more profit. Now, Congress does control the export of U.S.-made weapons.
Exactly. Hurricane JW. That's my bro. That's my big bro.
In campaign contributions and lobbying last year alone. Pope Francis even called out the U.S. during a recent speech to Congress. He said the reason deadly weapons are being sold to groups and governments around the world is simply for money.
Money that is drenched in blood, often innocent blood.
So is the business of war worth the profit when you consider the human cost?
Now we're going to talk about your boy,
It's the cover-up that shocked the nation, the death of Army Ranger and former NFL star Pat Tillman in Afghanistan 6 years ago. We're going to get new details from his mother exclusively in just a moment. But first, a look back at how the cover-up unfolded. After the September 11th attacks and at the peak of his NFL career, Pat Tillman walked away from a $3.6 million contract.
He went and he thought he was being patriotic, joined the military, became an Army Ranger, and you know the rest, OJ. You know the rest.
Yes, sir. He got killed by friendly fire.
Yes, sir. Died in his damn rage by one of his own, friendly fire. Well, I know he didn't feel like a friend after that, though. I know he didn't.
Contract. He left the Arizona Cardinals to serve his country. In June of 2002, he and his brother Kevin enlisted in the U.S. Army.
My great-grandfather was at Pearl Harbor, and a lot of my family has given up, has gone and fought in wars, and I really haven't done a damn thing as far as laying myself on the line like that.
Tillman fought in the initial invasion of Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2003. He was later redeployed to Afghanistan. On April 26th,
You see how they give these names, these noble names, Iraqi freedom, this and that. Is Iraq free today? Iraq's not free today. See, Iraqi freedom means they can go over there and get all their natural resources without paying for it. Everything over there is free because they went over there and raped and pillaged the whole goddamn land. Iraqi freedom. Everything over there is free.
Yeah.
And then when the United States leaves something, when they go to a country and they set up bases and they do what they do over there, when they leave those countries, they leave those countries in a condition that causes civil war everywhere they go.
Yeah, I was going to say basically they've used the doctrine of discovery.
Yes, sir.
We see y'all as less than human, and we're gonna come take your land. Go ahead, brother.
And we discovered this with a whole bunch of people living there.
7-year-old was on patrol just outside the village of Spira near the Pakistani border. At the time, military officials said he was killed by insurgents during an ambush. Tillman's family was told he'd charged up a hill, forcing the enemy to withdraw, saving the lives of his fellow Rangers before he was fatally shot. At his funeral, Tillman was awarded a Silver Star, which was approved by Lieutenant General Stanley McChrystal. McChrystal signed the report that said Tillman was killed by enemy fire. This even as accounts and evidence surfaced showing he was actually killed by friendly fire. About a month after his death, the Army announced Tillman was killed accidentally by his own men.
To tell the truth and nothing but
Tillman's parents sharply criticized the Army's handling of the incident. They were convinced officials covered up the truth.
So why did the general sign off on that, knowing that he was killed by friendly fire as opposed to by, enemy combatants? I'm glad you asked. To make him a hero.
The truth because he'd become one of the most high-profile soldiers in the U.S. military, and because of the negative effect it could have on recruiting.
Pat Tillman loved the game of football. Yet he loved America even more.
The Tillman Story, a documentary being released this Friday, chronicles Mary Tillman's, Pat's mother's, crusade to uncover the truth behind her son's death.
Now we're going to have his brother speaking, I believe it's before Congress.
Specialist Tillman at this time was hit by small arms fire. I know this because I could hear the pain in his voice as he called out, "Ceasefire, friendlies, I am Pat effing Tillman, damn it." He said this over and over again until he stopped, end quote. The facts of this case clearly show Pat and the Afghan soldier were killed by fellow members of his platoon, as well as the wounded soldiers on the hillside, and they knew this immediately. Revealing that Pat's death was a fratricide would have been yet another political disaster during a month already swollen with political disasters, and the brutal truth that the American public would undoubtedly find unacceptable.
What does this make this government? It makes them corrupt to the core.
Corrupt to the core, my brother.
Corrupt to the damn core, because they was trying to pass this man off as a hero who was shot and killed, you know, the Purple Heart type thing, you know what I'm saying? And he was killed by his own men.
So the facts needed to be suppressed. An alternative narrative had to be constructed. Crucial evidence was destroyed, including Pat's uniform, equipment, and notebook. The autopsy was not done in accordance to regulation, and the field hospital report was falsified. An initial investigation completed with 8 to 10 days.
The video that you sent me earlier, that you put in the chat earlier, Tay Marco, is coming up next.
Days before testimony could be changed or manipulated, and which hit disturbingly close to the mark, disappeared into thin air, and was conveniently replaced by another investigation with more palatable findings. This freshly manufactured narrative was then distributed to the American public, and we believe the strategy had the intended effect. It shifted the focus from the grotesque torture at Abu Ghraib and a downward spiral of an illegal act of aggression to a great American who died a hero's death. Over a month after Pat's death, when it became clear that it would no longer be possible to pull off this deception, a few of the facts were parceled out to the public and to our family. General Kinzinger was ordered to tell the American public May 29th, 5 weeks later, that Pat died of fratricide. But
most case scenario, whatever level of government there is, all of them were liars. They lie. They lie to get people to even join the military. They prey on the less fortunate, the poor. They prey on people who want what America has to offer as far as education. You know what we call it, indoctrination. They promise you $50,000 for college, and then they put you on the front line hoping you would die so they don't have to give it to you when you come back to the United States. They use the people. And not only that, OG's a veteran. He knows they use the soldiers to fight all over the world for corporate greed. It's all it is, corporate greed. None of these missions they send the people on are really what they say they're over there fighting for. They get over there, those soldiers get over there and find out why they're there. They get mad as hell when they find out why they're really there. But they're there.
but with a calculated and nefarious twist. He stated, quote, there was no one specific finding of fault, end quote, and that he, quote, probably died
that
of
was
fratricide,
big
end
facts, what you
quote.
just said, my
There
brother.
was.
What was that, good brother?
That was big facts, what you said, man. You know,
Yes, sir.
I look at myself. You know, I looked at when I served. You know, my understanding I was doing for the country. Now, I know I was doing it for the corporation, and I feel guilty. You know what I mean? Go ahead, bro.
Yes, sir.
Was specific fault, and there was nothing probable about the facts that led to Pat's death. The most despicable part of what General Kinzinger told the American public was when he said, quote, the results of this investigation in no way diminish the bravery and sacrifice displayed by Corporal Tillman, end quote. This is an egregious attempt to manipulate the public into thinking that anyone who would question this 180-degree flip in the narrative would be casting doubt on Pat's bravery and sacrifice.
This is the video that Tate Marco had in the chat earlier about the deception that's going on here in the United States.
What did we do to deserve this?
The devil is not hiding anymore. The enemy's public. They're not hiding anymore. It's not covert. It's overt. It's right in our face. And they really think that we can't do anything about it. They think that we can't.
Well, we ruined the planet, we dispossessed, imprisoned, and slaughtered First Nations people, we enforced gender roles, we systemized rape, racism, misogyny, transphobia, homophobia, ableism, classism, and unsustainable food industries. We allowed fossil fuel companies to operate our elected officials like ventriloquist dummies from hell, raping our planet for economic gain. We turned the prisons and military into big business. We sold our land, our resources, our water table, and the port of Darwin to the Chinese, who we're now in a trade war with. We empowered the church to such a degree it's now just a tax haven for pedophiles, with the ability to manipulate government policy and mandate legislation on women's bodies without their consent. And we bred dogs to a superficial aesthetic level so they can no longer breathe. But pugs are so cute the way they suffocate when they walk. Their eyes are pointing in different directions because they're asking both owners to kill them.
And don't forget the agenda that they're pushing that you are a part of. He mentioned everything besides that. That's the irony of it.
What?
Your ID.
I'm not harassing you.
You're harassing me.
How am I harassing
I'm
you?
going to show you right now.
How am I harassing?
Now listen to this fool right here, brother OG. Now, listen to this fool. This video is courtesy of We the People University. Fair use.
11:30. You're going to find out.
How am I harassing you?
You're shining your light on a police car.
You were I was asking if you were okay.
Why would you ask me? I'm a police officer. Why are you asking if I'm okay? Do I need you?
Am I not allowed to
doing
ask
my
if the police
job.
are
Why you
okay?
asking if I'm okay? 11:30. You're going to find out.
This guy calls for backup, misusing police resources. He said he's being harassed because somebody shined a flashlight in his face. See, as much as they shine flashlights in people's face, he don't like it.
Can you send me a couple of units here to Coaching Park?
You were okay.
Hey, where you guys at? Let me see your IDs.
No.
Let me see your IDs.
I don't have my.
While strolling and admiring the beautiful city of Miami, Florida, a few auditors from the YouTube channels Open Government Investigations, Mass Accountability, and Ragamonkey spotted a Miami PD squad car idling for an extended period of time.
See, he got busted. He goes there and he parking. He sit there his whole shift doing nothing. And he don't like the fact that these young guys came over there. He was sitting there texting on his phone and they shined a light in his face. And he's pissed off because he's been busted.
One of the men decided to approach the vehicle to check on the officer inside, ensuring everything was okay or if any assistance was needed. What's peculiar is, in my book, Living in the World of Tyranny, I highlighted how police officers are trained to be paranoid and to always be on alert to their surroundings due to the perceived threats from the public. However, I also argue this was a tactic used by training facilities and departments to mentally control their officers. Remarkably, today's video gives strong evidence indicating that officer safety might not be the top priority. Open Government Investigations stood by the window of the police vehicle, observing the officer texting on his phone for a solid 45 seconds without the officer having a clue that someone was even standing there, indicating that the officer's safety might not be the foremost concern. The subsequent actions by the officer that followed seemed to be more focused on being embarrassed for getting caught not doing his job than genuinely prioritizing officer safety.
He doesn't realize that I'm there. He's just sitting there texting. You doing all right? You doing okay? You're working? Okay.
Huh? Oh, I was trying to see if you were okay.
Did you hear what he said? He said that you're harassing me. That is mockery. As much as they go around, especially in Florida, and harass people, he's being harassed because he flashed a light in his face.
I'm not harassing you. I'm checking to see if you're okay. You what? I'm not harassing you. I was asking. Pardon?
Don't come over here harassing.
I'm not harassing you.
Where do you live at?
Where do you live at? What a punk. No, he's sitting there texting on his phone. He's just sitting there texting on his phone. Yeah. We got flashlights too. Really?
See, he said he's being harassed, and now he's flashing his light, but he's being harassed.
Really? I can play the flashlight game too, bro. What?
Your ID.
I'm not harassing you.
You're harassing me.
How am I harassing
I'm
you?
gonna show you right now.
How am I harassing you?
11:30. You're gonna find out.
How am I harassing you?
You're shining your light on a police car.
I was asking if you were okay.
Why would you ask me? I'm a police officer. Why you ask if I'm okay? Do I need you?
Am I not allowed to ask if the police are
Why you
okay?
ask if I'm okay? 11:30. You're gonna find out. Can you send me a couple of units here to Coastal Park on 6-1?
Am I not allowed to ask if a police officer's okay?
He's such a damn punk. He's a punk.
Okay. You're gonna find out.
I'm gonna find out.
You're gonna find out. Yeah.
What does that mean?
You're harassing me.
I'm not harassing you.
Yes, you are. Yes, can you send me some units over here, please?
How the fuck am I harassing them?
Sergeant.
First, in order to harass someone, it has to be continuous. Doing something one time can be considered harassment. He don't even know what harassment is, and he's a sergeant.
I literally asked if you were okay.
You're gonna find out. You're flashing your light in my car. You're harassing me. Is that something normal people do? Go up to the car and flash lights in their car?
I was asking if you were okay.
Is that normal people thing do?
I was asking if you were okay.
Where you guys live? Let me see your IDs.
No.
Let me see your IDs.
I don't have my ID on me.
Okay, you need to get out of here then.
Okay.
You have ID. You have to be in the streets of Florida.
If we're free
okay?
to go,
You have to have an ID.
Yes, you do. You need to ID yourself.
No,
Okay.
unless we committed a crime.
Be quiet.
No, not at all.
Okay.
You have to have
Exactly what I say, bro. No matter who it is, no matter if it's somebody look like us or Caucasian, what have you, they're all the same. None of these dudes is different. None of them different. They have the same comply, do what I say attitude. They want somebody to comply with them. They cowards, but want to be seen as heroes.
What's your name and
I don't
background?
have ID on me.
Okay.
Sergeant Jack, what's your
You
number?
want-
What's your ID
You're gonna
number?
find out real soon.
What's your ID number?
Okay.
When my units get, you're gonna find out real soon.
What's your ID number?
You're gonna find out real soon.
I'm not harassing you.
Intimidation right there. You're going to
I'm
find
not harassing you.
Okay. I say
I
you're
literally.
harassing me.
Okay, yeah,
can't
you say.
flash your
I
light in my
asked if
car.
you were
You
okay.
are harassing me.
What did I ask
You
you?
are
I asked
harassing
if you were okay.
Okay, you're gonna find out. You're harassing me.
I literally asked if you were okay.
Where's your ID? Where's your ID at? Because you're so smart. Where's your ID at?
Huh? I don't have my
Where's your ID at?
I don't have it
I
on
need
me.
all your IDs. I need to take you out right now. I need your ID, sir.
all these police resources for nothing.
Florida statute
For
784.048
young guys with phones and cameras.
stalking definitions. As used in this section, the term harass means to engage in a course of conduct directed at a specific person which causes substantial emotional distress to that person and serves no legitimate purpose. Course of conduct means a pattern of conduct composed of a series of acts over a period of time, however short, which evidences a continuity of purposes. The term does not include constitutionally protected activities such as picketing or other organized protests. Upon close inspection of the surroundings, it becomes evident that this is a residential area where the Miami PD squad cars are running code, hastily arriving with lights and sirens blaring. Whenever the police engage in what's known as running code, there is an
running code means that there's is an emergency, and it's a sense of urgency. And he called these cops there because he wanted to intimidate them, and that's a misuse of resources. Now, what if a real crime is going on across town and they're over there fucking with them young boys?
an increased risk of harm to the public. This is why running code is typically justified only in the most critical emergencies. However, this particular incident, the sergeant deemed his pride to be a sufficient and serious emergency, justifying the officer's decision to put the public at risk. It's alarming that many officers graduate from the academy without adequate training or genuine concern for the general public, as exemplified in this instance. These same officers go on and progress to become supervisors, and the sergeant in this video serves as a stark illustration of a tyrant with insufficient training or concern for others.
Give me your ID.
Literally, okay, real quick. Can I talk to you real quick? I asked
Give me
him.
your ID.
I don't have my ID on
Okay,
me.
you have to have ID to be on the streets as an adult. Okay?
No, not to
if
be
you
on the
know
streets.
what you're recording, you should know that. Okay.
Not to be on the streets. It's only for driving.
Right here. Okay, put your phones on. You're getting investigated right now.
Okay.
They come here arresting.
Okay, listen. Can I talk to you, please? This guy is like freaking out. I asked him if he was okay. We've been walking around. I noticed he's been sitting here for a while. I didn't know if sometimes people fall asleep. I wanted to make sure he was okay.
But I wasn't sleeping.
All I did was turn my flashlight on because I was looking, and he's like,
I'm gonna let you know before I move on how this ended. The backup officers refused to do anything to these young men. They told their sergeant, "You need to chill and leave these young men alone. They're doing a constitutionally protected act. We can't do shit about it." So they just left the young men alone. So that's the way this ended. I want to go to this video where the greed of the former sounding off on I believe it's Bill Gates. My brother Big Dog Philly OG sent me this video. About what they try to sometimes they try to pay the farmers to not farm.
Along with China's land grab.
And brother, real quick,
farm.
it explains just what you're saying, how this system is corrupt to the core. Go ahead, brother.
Yes, sir.
Microsoft founder Bill Gates is the largest private owner of American farmland. Gates alone holds over 275.
See, this right here is very suspicious because this is a man who's into information technology. He has all this farmland. If you have all this farmland, it's obvious something nefarious on his mind.
1,000 acres across 19 states. Our next guest is a Virginia farmer who lives near one of Gates's data centers. National Black Farmers Association President John Boyd Jr. joins us now. John, so great to have you on. So I'm sure you put a lot of thought into this. Why do you think Bill Gates is buying up all this land?
Well, one is greed, and it's running America's family farm is off family land. Basically, we can't buy the land once Bill Gates moves into the area. For example, his data center is right next door here, and since he's located in Boydton, Virginia, land prices have went through the roof, $15,000, $20,000 an acre. What farmer do you know that can pay that kind of money per acre? Off anything that we can grow on the farm? He doesn't do anything when he comes into these areas to support community-based organizations or invest back into these communities. That's what's hurting America right now.
Yeah.
And what he's trying to do now in the food industry is the same thing that they've done with seeds. When they put genetically modified seeds in, and now he wants to do that with beef. But America's farmers are proud farmers.
Wow.
And I'm asking Americans not to support fake meat, but to support farmers out here who grow beef like I do, and poultry and pork. Support America's farmers and not support Bill Gates and this mega theory and mindset that he has.
Yeah.
It's really called greed.
Yeah, no, and by the way, it's not just Bill Gates. The Chinese also gobbling up a
absolutely.
lot of American farmland. You talked about pork. The Chinese own the biggest pork processing plant. Brazil does too, but China, I think, owns multiple of them. It's not good for our economy, and it's not good for the small farmer. You know, I'm thinking about all of these problems.
You said that in another stream, brother, about the Chinese and their pork. I remember, I forgot what you said, how you worded it, but you said that about them with their pork. And,
Yeah, they bought up Smithfield Bacon, who was the #1 largest pork provider in the United States. Smithfield Bacon.
Oh, they bought them out?
Yes, sir. That was like 10 years ago.
Oh, that don't, you know, that could never affect me because I don't eat that shit.
Exactly.
Problems, right? They're trying to push synthetic meat on us. They're messing with the seeds, as you talk about, with these genetically modified seeds. And it doesn't appear that Congress or government is doing enough to stop China from buying the land, to stop Bill Gates from doing these things. So what should the people who are watching the show right now, what should be their response? Should they be buying up land? Should they be learning to farm so that they can secure, you know, their own food supply for their own families?
Absolutely. And I just visited 39 townships around the country. Urging.
What they should do is find out if they're a legitimate farmer and only support the farmers that's on like a grassroots level, like this brother right here and others. And somebody like a Bill Gates and these rich billionaires who own farms, just don't buy nothing that they're affiliated with. Don't buy none of this shit.
Urging small family farmers to start growing small plots of food in their backyard. Raise healthy foods that they know that are safe to consume. And if you grow it, and it tastes different from the food that you buy in the supermarket. It's fresh, it's good, it's wholesome. Those are the things that we're going to have to do. And if you can afford a new Mercedes-Benz or a Cadillac or SUV, you can afford 5 acres in the country, people. So start investing in rural America. Start supporting small family farmers around there. Guess what? They can start buying beef from a small scale farmer. You know, I raised 150 head of beef cattle here. And I can tell you right now, it's nothing fake about it. And I'm proud of the product that leaves Boyd's Farm. And all of our farmers right here in America feel the same way. And we see, and right now we're getting bullied by China and people like Bill Gates who are coming into our area. And you spoke about China. They come into these auctions and they have someone bidding for them. And again, they're buying these farms at auctions, running the prices through the roof with no oversight from this administration. And there's been no oversight, or I've requested meetings time and time again on your show to meet with the president and talk about these very, very important issues. And our requests have fell upon deaf ears. So far, there hasn't been a meeting.
Hey, you heard that right, brother Paul?
We're looking differently to hear from other candidates who want to reach out to us to see if they want our support.
Yes, sir.
He said he's been reaching out to the president and all of them, and not one reply, not one answer, not one call back. Corrupt to the core. They don't care.
Corrupt to the core, but they allow this foreigner to come, this foreigner to come over here and buy thousands of acres of land. And they doing that all over the United States. And Bill Gates has cities. He bought so much land that he has cities. He can actually found some cities across the United States. That's how much land he got. But I know with his wicked mind, he's thinking of something wicked to do. I guarantee you.
Yeah, he's thinking about metaverse cities. That's what he's thinking about.
You know, I could honestly believe that. I could honestly believe that. Metaverse cities, among other things, you know, that he created to get rid of unwanted population on the planet, you know what I'm saying? Among other things.
What?
I think this is one of the most important issues facing America. I'm really glad you're drawing attention to it. It's also a health issue. It doesn't just taste better, John. It's better for you to eat natural and not all this synthetic stuff that Bill Gates and wants to put down, or even from these giant giant processing plants. You're right. I buy my pork and my beef from a local farmer near me. That's the way to do it. That's the safest, healthiest way. John, thank you for coming, for bringing attention to this, but also reminding people it just takes a few acres and you can have your own food supply.
Yes.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Support America's farmers. Thank you very much for having me.
Amen to that.
Yeah, brother. Corrupt to the core. That's exactly what they are. And I think we did a good job this evening of exposing them. This is going to conclude this episode of Corrupt to the Core on the Enemy's Public. I want to thank my brother, Big Dog Filio G, for joining me. You know, it's always a pleasure chopping it up with you, good brother.
Yes, sir. You have a good night. Much love and respect to you and the family. Always much love and respect to everybody in the chat, brother. Thank you for letting me up.
Yes, sir. You know it's home, brother. You one of the sponsors of the Enemy's Public, so you know that. You know you home, brother. So you know what that is. I want to thank Tay Marco for the video and joining the brother this evening. I want to thank my brother Hurricane JW. Salute to the good brother Dangerous Music. Respect. Thank you for coming through. Black Panther Jackie Brown. Juan Truth. Salute, good brother. Hip Hop Forever. The Michigander. Salute. Peace to you. My brother Keith West. Salute. Peace, good brother. Of course, my brother Big Dog Filio G. Chief 18 Wills. Peace. Salute, good brother. Bronze Flat Power God. Salute, fam. King Genocide. Salute to you. Peace, good brother. Warfare K. Salute, brother. Peace. I want to thank everybody for coming through and joining the brother this evening as we exposed the wicked government, the wicked local government, state and federal, the wicked people in information technology that want to take land from and proceed from farming from people. We want to expose them all for who they are. And before we go, I want to hear some Dre Cobbs, the Loose Cannon.
Nobody's bad as me. Nobody's bad as me. More guns to merrier. More guns to merrier. Nobody's bad as me. Nobody's bad as me. Front if you dare and I'll change your whole anatomy.
Dre. Cyphers. Yo,
brother
Cyphers. Peon every member of your recon, and you never see them come back like a respawn. The finest from the earth, not looking my age. Put a diamond in the air.
Peace to my brother Chris Cyphers. Salute to you, dog.
I don't act nor stage. Who let the dog out? Got more bars than your cage. Newsflash, I get more head than do-rags. Flow so good it could never be too bad. I'm the same dude exposing the lies from newscasts. His story is a story, and I conclude that. Fair warning for all them niggas that's after me. Have docs touching up your face, Grey's Anatomy. Bottom of the ninth, and I'm still thinking playoff. Drake calls, we make these niggas day job stay odd. I'm a big threat to this new cancer. My rage off the mood scanner. I stay green, don't call it Bruce Banner.
Nobody's bad as me. Nobody's bad as me. More guns to merrier. More guns to merrier. Nobody's bad as me. Nobody's bad as me. Front if you dare and I'll change your whole anatomy. Yeah. the message you sent. Extinction level event. You gon' see your demons when you make it sin. Out here getting money, and nigga, I ain't leaving the sin. The rap God, I make you niggas repent for spitting that bullshit. The barrel long like a pool stick. You gotta pull your tool quick, then it's quick, boom. I keep the metal like I'm Dr. Doom. I've been a problem since I came out the womb. The 40 cal will clear the room. Me and Chris Cyphers, I'll be to see you soon. This is that flame underneath the spoon. I told you this shit automatic. While the street scholars understand them, and the corporations holding rap for ransom. I'm walking in them offices like Brian Pillman, the loose cannon. Overall, this 99 club, that's all Latin. You ain't killing nothing, that's all clapping. Don't come around here with your rhyme slacking. When I pick up the mic, you know what happens.
Pillman's press conference, and we're really gonna find out what all you yes men, what all you obsequious hot dogs, they're telling Monsoon and doing
Respect to Joel 512. Respect.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, loose cannons.
And DDP is gonna make you feel the best.
The God's mind.
Yeah. Yo, they took the God's mind, made them a slave, gave them the shovel, made them dig their own grave. They made the Americans the Africans. Maybe they'll wake up one day looking at them like, who gave you them double A's? The Indians don't fucking play. Run up in your crib, fuck up your feng shui. Get rid of these clowns with one wave. I know some pray, but I self-lord and master. I'm light years ahead of you, and I'm just moving past you. African American, we gotta change that status. You don't want to be guys, you rather be bastards. I smell death everywhere. You holding on to a casket. I do this shit with passion. I'm working on the Hall of Fame, get my gold jacket. You gotta stop pushing slavery to the masses. We was born free from the land that's under my feet. Now I'm the head of the table. Let me take a seat. Though the mission ain't complete, I'ma keep going until these niggas retreat. It's feathers up and it's eagles up. My nigga, I'm just heating up. Juvenile, 400 degrees. Ha ha, Davis, this finna be a breeze. I bring them to their knees with just one squeeze. I do it with ease. Flow nasty like a venereal disease. It's straight carbs.
Peace, family. I hope everybody have a safe and pleasant night. This is The Enemy's Public. I am Brother Nasir. Like, share, subscribe. Support the channel. Tell people about the channel. Peace.
The once goal-driven, ambitious Sapphire turns to the street life after the sudden death of her big brother Dre. Dre's best friend Devontae tries to honor his homeboy's last request of looking out for his baby sister. A rebellious Sapphire makes it very difficult for Devontae to carry out his promise.
Enemy Public, I saw your thing on YouTube, man. Keep doing your thing, bro.